It's that time in human history when we're going to have to decide which side we're on. Basically, there's a group of people that literally is trying to take over the world by force. There's a difference between force and free will. People that believe in freedom, that's free will. That's being able to choose where you want to go, what you want to think, what you want to feel in regard to what you're feeling, like your response. Basically, your freedom, right? It's the most important thing in the world. That's why everything happens, because you can choose, okay? People say, why do bad things happen in the world? It's because you can choose, okay? Why do good things happen in the world? It's because you can choose. But good, it's always good that you can choose, because if you force someone and you don't have or for example, you're in a position where you're being forced, I can promise you, you don't want to be there. And so I wrote the United Nations a couple times. Each time they tried to kill me afterwards. But I wrote the United Nations that DARPA and Neuralink should be illegal together because they are tied directly together. Basically, the internet connects to Starlink, which then spreads the internet to communities where there is no internet. The internet's bad for people. It's actually on microwave frequency, so it's cooking them. That's why they're starting to die and get sick and get crazy, stuff like that. And why the world feels like distant, why you feel like distant from everybody. Why you feel disconnected, because it's interfering with the quantum mechanical field, the electromagnetical field, the light spectrum, the resonance spectrum, all sorts of stuff, okay? It's basically messing with everything. And because it's messing with everything, it's causing a disturbance in reality. It's augmenting reality. It's changing the way that we perceive reality. There's actual reality, which contains everything, and then there's perceived reality, which is how much of reality you see as the species you are and the being you are within that species. Okay? You have special bounds, and then you have personal bounds within that species, where you're able to observe reality for what it is. And it makes sense to you because you live within that bounds, or those bounds. Sealed to those bounds, if that makes sense. Okay? The veil over reality. They call it Maya in Hinduism. Okay? So essentially, we have a reality that we have untied, kind of like Chief Seattle said, the web of life. All of the creatures in the web of life were important in the web of life, and that if you affected one thing in nature, it would affect everything. It was a very intricate web of life, is what he would talk about, right? Much like he was talking about, and much like my understanding of displacement of anything, really. Look at feng shui, even, for example. You put an object in a room, the energy flows around the object. You literally can't do anything without causing a disturbance in reality in some way. You either facilitate reality or manipulate reality, depending on what you're doing. You move with it or you move against it. And so if you're facilitating reality, you're doing good. If you're manipulating reality, you're doing bad. You're manipulating it to your favor, or you're facilitating it to facilitate life, either for yourself or others, or both. Usually, ideally, both. Okay? That's facilitation versus manipulation. So we have the quantum resonance field, which is basically that every being resonates. Every being resonates outwards from themselves. And that resonates, connects together, and we feel each other even when we're apart. And then now we have a suppression field on us with the technology that's being used on very high frequency wavelengths, which is basically suppressing us. You could say at a note. It's almost like a note is always ringing really high, and it's really kind of just hurting our heads. But then they're also doing some stuff where they're trying to tap into the brain, send signals to the brain with sensory interfaces such as Neuralink, and that's why I wrote the United Nations and said it should be illegal. And so I said that Tesla fields, which are basically manipulations of the resonant field, which is between all beings, which causes us to communicate amongst ourselves, and we feel more close to each other because of it. It's a little bit like water to drink between each other, okay? The quantum resonance field, or the resonance field between us, a disturbance of that field along any frequency wavelength would displace it or cause diffusion of it. And so I wrote the United Nations, and I said this, and I said Tesla fields should at least be only in certain areas and not everywhere, because displacing the entire resonant field would essentially untie reality and cause catastrophic events, which could basically untie reality and cause cataclysms. This is what I wrote. And then they decided to send nano drones into my body when I was trying to see my friend Ari, as they were trying to chase her away, which they do with the people that I know. They're trying to keep people away from me because they don't want me to talk because I speak the truth. So they tried to keep my friends away from me. I was trying to see Ari in St. George, Utah, and I was on my way there, and I was up by Mill Creek Canyon again, believe it or not, trying to get away from these assholes, as they were sending sonic signals on me and sending me into a pulse where I was getting near death. Okay, this happened a bunch of times where they nearly killed me, right? A bunch. They've tried to kill me every day for like 2 years now. They've tried to kill me every day for 2 years now. Elon Musk and DARPA. And yeah, I'm calling it out now. Okay, so anyway, after I wrote the United Nations, they sent cloaked nanoparticles or drones around me. They called it stardust. And they went inside of my orifices and into my skin. I tried to grab them out of the air, and they burned into my hand and crawled into my body. And I could feel them going through my body and cutting me up from the inside. It felt like I was being eaten alive by animals. I am not lying to you. It was the most painful thing I've experienced. I'm a sponsored skateboarder. I was sponsored for 12 years. Okay, I'm not sponsored anymore because I don't really skate anymore, but I was sponsored for 12 years by a shop. I used to jump off of buildings and win contests. I'd smash my knees, smash my balls, hit my face in the ground. I thought that was a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10 on pain. I would put that at a 10, okay? You want to know what this was? Stardust? 100. If that were 10. If falling back on your neck or smacking your shins at high speed or smacking your balls and hitting your face were a 10, this was 100. It was the most painful thing I ever experienced. I barely got away with my life. In the background, I can hear them speaking, of course. They're saying, turn on the soul suck machine. As Elon Musk and Bill Gates are eating popcorn in the background, mocking me because they use a fear frequency on my chest as they try to get you to lie and then try to steal your soul out of your body, which they can't do, but they can totally do something to scare the shit out of you while they're killing you. Okay? And so while they do this, they're saying, why isn't he dead yet? The elephant died in 30 seconds. And I go through about 10 minutes of this just screaming in agony. I don't know how long it lasts. Maybe it's 2 minutes. I have no clue, but it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced since after I wrote the United Nations and said Tesla fields should be illegal and that DARPA and Neuralink should be illegal together. DARPA, Starlink, and Neuralink. Okay? Because it's potential mind control technologies and the capabilities to send sensory information both directions and fuck with somebody, which they've been doing to me and my friends. And so I got to say that it's that time where you finally say, am I going to fight or am I going to get thrown in underground prison again? Because that's what they did to me already in a prison that said pink sheets, okay, on the inside. Where I heard people being tortured in the background the whole time. Where they didn't let me out of my room. Where they told me in my mind that it was the XJ13 cartel in there. And they were all Mexican. I got Too Tall in there and J Money. And I got Manuel. And I got, what's the other guy? Rocco. And I get poisoned every freaking meal while I'm in jail. And I hand him back the meal and I say, I think this is poison. I don't want it. And then Rocco says, rat. And I say, rat? What the fuck is this? Because they basically told them that I got them in there, whoever they were. And they tell me in my mind it's the XJ13 cartel. They're fucking with me. So this is the kind of stuff that I deal with every day. Basically, like I said, torturing people in the back of my mind. They're telling me they're killing my family and then replacing them with clones. And my family is acting weird. My family and my friends. They're telling me that they're taking the girls I love and they're fucking them and putting them in cages and then putting them on the internet under a sex website called Elijah's Girls. This is what they told me. So whether or not they're doing this stuff, they're saying it, and just saying it is vile. And so I say it's time to say the abomination which maketh desolate has been set up because they went to the mind, which is the holy place, in the body, which is the temple, in Zion, which is the people that are seeking God. Okay, which I do seek God. Okay, I'm not perfect. I'm aware of it. But they try to say evil things about me in the background because they can, because they send out the mafia and the cartels as the hand and foot to do their bidding. They send out BlackRock as the hand and foot. They send out Q to gather information for them. Yeah, they're working with every freaking thing. They send out the FBI, the CIA, the FSB, the Iacote, the CBP, and every other nation's leaders to do their bidding. Let me tell you how the world government works a little bit. Okay? So essentially, these jerks got everybody in the world to get an intranet. And then they hooked all those intranets together, then they got them all hooked on the internet. Okay, once the World Wide Web was together. And then they started giving them cybersecurity and all sorts of benefits and technologies. And they said, look at these technologies. Look at these vacuum suits that can go through the vacuum of space. For example, the Donald Trump Space Force. And they convinced George Bush to allow torture in the United States and signed the Patriot Act, which signed the United States over to DARPA, essentially, where we've been under darpic control, under the darpic human nephalim empire. Because, yes, they are beings underground that are humanoid, that are both sexes. They are transhumanists. Okay, they believe there are too many people and they want to live forever, and they are not exactly the same species as us. Okay, and not all of them are bad, not all of us are bad, but there are some of us and some of them, which is DARPA. That would be the combination of the nephalim and the people. That's why I say the darpic, as in DARPA, human nephalim empire.